employability credential coursework as we stand united in growing our future. Let's take a look at the employability credential coursework requirements. First, the student must successfully complete a total of 24 units as noted on the slide as one of the requirements of earning the employability credential. All academic coursework is aligned with the South Carolina College and Career Ready standards to include 4 units of English Language Arts. English Language Arts includes inquiry-based literacy standards, reading literary text, reading informational text, writing and communication. The student earning the employability credential must earn 4 units of math to include calculation and numeration, real-world math and math reasoning, basic algebra, and financial management. There must be 2 units of science earned to include physical science and biology currently, and social studies to include 2 units of U.S. history and the Constitution and government. In addition to the core coursework, the essentials courses, students must earn 4 units of employability education, those soft skills courses, 6 electives, 1 unit of PE health or equivalent, and 1 unit of technology. This is a framework of the organizational structure of the core coursework. This is how each course is structured. A course description is located at the beginning of each course that summarizes the standards, objectives, or those competency goals of the course. There should be consideration of present levels of performance relative to course selection. Therefore, course selection should not be based on the identified course of study. Each course includes strands that are the overarching topics to be mastered within those standards and competencies. Standards and objectives are outcomes that the student is expected to know and to demonstrate. Competencies are specific to what the student should be able to demonstrate and also pinpoints instructionally what the teacher should explicitly teach. It is important to note that all students must receive access to the general curriculum based on their present levels of performance and necessary supports such as modifications and accommodations. For many of our students earning the employability credential, the standards should be taught based on those big ideas, what it is that you want the student to know, and what is that essence of the standard. There are 4 major components of teaching embedded within the credential coursework, such as standards, curriculum, instruction, and assessment. Standards are a statement of the desired outcomes of student learning, just as we noted in the organized structure of the standards and layout within the employability credential. The curriculum is developed based on those standards and supports such as teacher resources, guides, classroom instructional materials. Instruction is the teaching process to attain the desired learning outcome, cultivating a spirit of inquiry. Assessments are an evaluation of that student learning to guide that teacher instruction, such as with the use of formative assessment. Formative assessment for students with disabilities should be a process that includes collecting ongoing data on student learning, applying a system of review to review the data to determine whether progress or a desired behavior has occurred, determining what changes may need to be made in the instruction based on that data and can involve the student in this process. Data-based decisions refers to a specific method of formative assessment that includes collecting that mastery data, graphing the data, and applying a set of guidelines to determine how to change instruction. Self-monitoring and self-directed learning refer to involving the student in collecting data, determining whether data have met the goal, and setting goals or using self-instruction. Formative assessment should have shared characteristics of data-based decisions by teachers and students. In support of the components of teaching, Universal Design for Learning is an evidence-based approach to instruction, lesson planning, and building in those accommodations and modifications with curriculum to promote participation and progress in the general curriculum for all students. Universal Design for Learning, the acronym UDL, is flexibility in teaching and learning for curriculum access, creating high expectations for all students, and equity of opportunity to learn for all students, with it removal of barriers. UDL is the design of the learning environment to be accessible for all students regardless of the setting or nature of disability, to include assistive technology. UDL includes 3 components: representation, expression, and engagement. Let's take a look at the first component of UDL, the component of representation. Representation refers to the multiple ways that the content and materials of the curriculum are presented based on learner characteristics. It is the display of information in a flexible format so that perceptual features can be varied, such as the size of text, images, graphs, tables, or other visual content, contrasting between background and text or image, the color used for information or emphasis, using touch equivalents such as tactile graphics or objects of reference for key visuals that represent concepts, the font used for print materials. In a continuation of universal design for learning and representation, using text equivalents in the form of captions or automated speech to text, which is voice recognition, for spoken language. It's important to provide visual diagrams, charts, notations of music or sound. Provide written transcripts for videos or auditory clips. Providing American Sign Language, ASL, for spoken English. And for some students who need physical objects, it's important to provide those physical objects and spatial models to convey perspective or interaction. Provide access to text-to-speech software and to provide descriptions, whether it's alt text or spoken, for all images, graphics, videos, or animations. Also, it's important to allow for a competent aid, partner, or intervener to read text aloud. Let's take a look at the UDL component of expression and looking at the multiple ways to demonstrate performance that is linked to instruction. It's important to provide alternatives for physically interacting with materials by hand, voice, single switch, a joystick, keyboard, or adapted keyboard. Provide calculators when needed. Important would be for access to literacy, perhaps those sentence starters or sentence strips. It's important to use graphic organizers such as story webs, outlining tools, or concept mapping tools. Provide virtual or concrete math manipulatives such as base 10 blocks, algebra blocks, and for web applications, wikis, animation, presentation. As a continuation of universal design for learning and expression, it's important to ask questions to guide self-monitoring and reflection, show representations of progress such as before and after photos, graphs, charts showing progress over time, process portfolios. It's important to prompt learners to identify the type of feedback or advice that they are seeking. You can use templates that guide self-reflection on quality and completeness. Provide differentiated models of self-assessment strategies such as role-playing, video reviews, peer feedback. One could use assessment checklists, scoring rubrics, and multiple examples of annotated student work performance examples. The third component of universal design for learning and access to the general curriculum is engagement. Engagement are multiple ways for students to be engaged in the curriculum through their learning preferences to promote motivation. This will allow empowerment of learners to take charge of their own learning. It's important to create those cooperative learning groups with learning opportunities, clear goals, roles, and responsibilities, providing prompts that guide learners in when and how to ask peers and/or teachers for help. One could encourage and support opportunities for peer interactions and supports, such as use of peer tutors. It's important to construct those learning communities, and have those learners be engaged in common interest tasks and activities. If there is one site that all educators must have in their toolkit, it is CAST. CAST is a robust center of information for access to the general curriculum for all learners. The website is posted on the slide. High Leverage Practices provides teachers support to enable design of focused curriculum that integrates coordinated, effective practice opportunities via collaboration, instruction, assessment, social and emotional behavior to improve outcomes for students. The components of collaboration, instruction, assessment, and social emotional behavior are those puzzle pieces that fit together to optimize student learning. Collaboration is all about building relationships. Relationships with relevant professionals and families to optimize student success in designing learning. This will allow for varied expertise and perspectives about a student to be shared responsibly. Collaborative activities should be focused on designing unique instructional programming and specific outcomes. This should include collecting data and monitoring progress toward those outcomes. Instruction should be to identify and prioritize short-term, long-term goals to systematically design specific learning competencies toward goals. It's important to provide scaffolding supports using explicit instruction, using evidence-based strategies to promote student engagement, active learning in a meaningful way. For some students, using assistive technology for curriculum access is critical and will support maintaining skills and generalizing to new settings. During instruction, provide positive and constructive feedback to guide student learning. With assessment, it's important to use student assessment data to analyze instructional practices as reflective practitioners, to make adjustments in the instruction to improve student outcomes, and this is formative assessment. Social and emotional behavioral, those learning environments should be consistent, structured, organized, and respectful. It's important to teach social behaviors with multiple opportunities to practice that desired behavior throughout the school day and in multiple settings. Provide positive and constructive feedback to the learning and behavior in a respectful, culturally responsive manner, developing metacognitive strategies and helping students understand the way they think, they learn, and they think about their thinking. It's important to conduct functional behavior assessments to develop individual support plans. For technical assistance concerning the employability credential programming, feel free to contact Kim Watkins' Recruitment, Retention, and Programs team, who is the state lead in the Employability Credential Courses Study, Office of Special Education Services, telephone number 803-734-6028, email kawatkins@ed.sc.gov.